Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a crime/thriller. It's from the UK, English language, released in the year 2014, directed by Jan Demange, and this movie is called 71. So 71 is basically 1971 in Belfast, Northern Ireland. So it's when the IRA were at their worst, and obviously the IRA were battling the British. They wanted independence from the British, and British being British, they weren't going to let that happen. So the IRA were fighting back at them, and this is the story of one soldier in particular, played by Jack O'Connell. So Jack O'Connell, he's this young guy, he's got a young son, and he's shipped off to do a little bit of service in Belfast. He gets there, and there's a riot that ensues. So this riot, it causes Jack O'Connell and his friend to be separated from the rest of the battalion, and the rest of the battalion, they retreat without him. So he is stuck, him and his friend are stuck in Belfast behind enemy lines. So his friend gets killed by an IRA operative, and he manages to escape. So he is now alone, he doesn't know who to trust, and he is going through the streets in trying to avoid the clutches of the IRA who are after him. So if the British soldier can get out of this ordeal alive, then all the people that murdered his friend are going to be implicated in this, and that they're going to be punished. So they're hell-bent on killing him, and he's hell-bent on getting back to his barracks and out of this alive so he can see his son again. So whether or not that is the case, something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now, my thoughts of 71. This is a very interesting film because this does depict the IRA. Now, my family roots, they do lead back to Northern Ireland, so I don't know too much about, the conflict with the IRA. I know now it's a lot more peaceful, but back in the day, it was very violent, and it did show a different sort of, I guess you could call them a terrorist organisation because they bombed things, and they didn't really care who they killed in order to get what they wanted. What they wanted was to kick the British out. So they were doing all these tactics to scare the British off, and the people who really suffer are the civilians, the people who haven't done anything wrong. And that's what the movie depicts very well, is that you've got the IRA who are trying to liberate their country and do the right thing and what they believe is the right thing, but it does show you that the true victims of a war are in fact the civilians, the children, the women, and all those people. And I thought there was a strange atmosphere in this film, in that Belfast, you could sense that almost the civilians thought that this was normality, that all these bombs going off, that they were used to it, and that was really frightening. And I thought that was a really good way that Jan Demange has done the film, is that he shows normality amongst all the chaos, and I thought that was quite scary. And it's not only a case in Belfast, but it happens all over the world, where people get so used to destruction that they think it's just a normal everyday occurrence. So it does remind you of how lucky we are in countries such as Australia, USA, or the West, and how peaceful we see our lives as, whereas places in Syria and all that kind of stuff, they have to contend with this every day. So that is something I appreciated in the film. It showed violence for what it was, and it showed the victims and how scary this whole thing can be, and how much of a waste of human life this whole conflict was. So as I said, it's a movie, it's a thriller. It's a movie about this guy who's trapped behind enemy lines. It reminded me of The Warriors. It reminded me of an American film called Behind Enemy Lines. It's got that really thrilling sort of cat and mouse game where you've got the IRA chasing the good guy, or the supposed good guy, and then he doesn't know who to trust. So you feel that it's him versus the rest of the world. And because at the start of the film you see that he's a loving father, you want him to get out of it for the sake of his child. And that if something happens to him, once again, the child would be a victim of this wasteful war. And so you want to see him get through, and that creates so much suspense, and that's why the film works, is that he's going through all these alleyways, these streets, he's going into people's homes, you're not quite sure if these people can be trusted, so there's always that level of suspense, and I thought it worked very, very well. It doesn't get bogged down with melodrama. There are moments where they're talking, but it all seems very relevant, and it all flows off each other very, very well. The violence is very hard-hitting. It's not frequent, the violence, but when the violence happens, it's very, very high impact, so it's in your face and it will shock you. But it's not gratuitous, it's not glorifying the violence, it's showing the violence for what it was back then, and it was terrifying. It gripped the whole of Belfast in a way that was just claustrophobic, is that you didn't know who the bad guys were, who the good guys were, and that it wasn't your typical war where it was black and white, good versus bad. This is a movie where you've got people who are deemed as the bad guys have a little bit of good in them, and people deemed as the good guys have a little bit of bad in them. So it's a movie about trust, it's a movie about humanity, and how some people thrive in this environment and some people just become a destroyed soul. I thought the acting was absolutely fantastic from Jack O'Connell. He delivers a wide range of emotions. I thought the supporting cast were great, the villains were great, and as I said, it shows you a conflict that hasn't really been depicted all that often. Now I know Daniel Day-Lewis was in a film depicting this sort of thing. I can't recall the name. Brendan Gleeson was in a film depicting Northern Ireland, and so was, I believe, Liam Neeson. So there are some films coming out, especially very recently, that are set during the times in Northern Ireland where things were really bad, and I think it's a conflict that more people should know about, because it's when it comes to, when you think of Northern Ireland, you don't think of a war zone. You think being in the UK, it would have been peaceful, but it wasn't. And so I think that having something of a different a theme and a different story, I thought helped the film a lot, because we've seen movies are done over and over again depicting World War II, Vietnam War, all the wars that people are very well aware of. But then when it comes to the IRA and the conflict in Northern Ireland, I think that it's very interesting to take a different approach as far as a war film is concerned. So I wouldn't say it's a straight-out war film. It's a movie about survival and what it takes to survive such a horrible event, and the things that you might have to do in order to survive, such as kill or be killed. Thought the ending was very good. It summed it up perfectly. As I said, it does give a lot of grey matter in between black and white, so nothing is ever sorted out for you. You have to make your own conclusion. It does show you that, as I said, even the good guys can be bad sometimes. So I thought this is absolutely phenomenal. Right at the end, I thought it just capped it off very well, and as a result of all that, I'm going to give 71 4 stars. Alright guys, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.